Lottie,
Hello.
thanks for coming on our show, Create.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't you firstly just introduce yourself and then obviously what you do. Obviously, we're property connected. So, yeah, over to you.
Yeah, so as you know, I'm Lottie, or as a lot of people know me on Instagram as Property Lottie. I'm a letting agent covering Staffordshire and Cheshire, and I've got a letting agency called Yorkies that I've recently started, and I'm very, very excited to be building that.
We're going to go straight into lettings out here. So, look, we're people first, right?
Yeah.
I want to know how and why lettings.
Complete accident, I must admit. Out of school, I went into electrical engineering. So a little bit of family background for you as to why I went into that. My mum's entire side of the family are all teachers, head teachers, science teachers. So my sister, my older sister, naturally went to be a primary school teacher. My dad's side of the family were all electrical engineers. So my grandpa was, my dad was. And I kind of felt like I needed to follow suit with that as well, because I'm a bit of a daddy's girl. So I went into electrical engineering on an apprenticeship, worked in a factory full of men. I was the youngest there. I was their first female apprentice across, I don't know how big the company was. It was GE, so General Electric.
Wow.
They were Alstom back then, so quite a big company. And to be the first female apprentice there was quite exciting. I was on the tools making electrical transformers for substations and power plants.
Nice.
And then I had a few issues with my kidneys, so I had to take a bit of time off work, which led to me ultimately leaving electrical engineering, and I had no idea what to do. Like my sister, she'd gone to uni, she'd got a degree, so she needed to be a teacher to use her degree, and she loves doing that. She's absolute natural with kids. I am not. I was left with no degree. I didn't finish my apprenticeship because I'd been in hospital. So I just got my GCSEs, which I did okay with.
Yeah.
But no plan, no idea what I wanted to do. My dad said there's no point getting back into electrical engineering because the way that the economy's going, they're just making everybody redundant. He says, so you need to find something else to do. So someone just said, there's a job going at our place. It'll pay your bills and give it a try. And that was to work for a corporate letting agency. So I started as a lettings negotiator, no idea what the job entailed. And 8 years later, I'm still here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kudos, by the way, on the first female electrical apprentice.
Thanks.
Wow. How was that?
I'll be honest, I actually loved it.
Yeah.
So I like being somebody who doesn't tick all the boxes or who does something a little bit different, very much in property as well. I don't care that I'm a girl. I can pick up a spanner, I can pick up a torque wrench, I can walk on a construction site in my heels, subject to health and safety.
I love that.
But I like being a little bit outside the box, so I loved it. It was great. There were a few comments from some creepy men that got passed my way,
no.
but it's off my back. It doesn't bother me. I'm quite happy doing what I'm doing, and yeah, so it was interesting. Met a few people who just loved the fact that I was this young girl in a factory and there was no one about, but it didn't bother me that much.
I think what's quite interesting, we're talking about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So 8 years ago, how we've evolved today, because you'd like to think that we're halfway through, or a little bit further than halfway, 2025, and it doesn't matter what race you are, what religion you are, what gender you are, it's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
We have got this sort of like centralised sort of like equality, which is brilliant. So it doesn't really matter what it is, what you want to do, as long as the individual wants to give something a go.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Whereas 8 years ago, if you weren't as resilient, maybe someone would have found that a little bit daunting as a woman going into a male-dominated industry.
They used to wind me up, so they'd send me to the stores for a long wait. Or not quite as obvious as this, but something like invisible paint. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm as gullible as anything. And I was so eager to please that somebody said to do something.
I'm doing it.
I'll go and do it. Yeah. And that's part of my personality. I'm a people pleaser and I like to do a good job.
All right. Well, let's dig into that then. Were you a people pleaser, or were you trying to prove a point? What was it?
That's good. Probably trying to prove a point. I love trying to prove someone wrong or to show that I can do something. Which is quite funny because I'm actually quite, as much as I'm very chatty and very confident, I'm also very reserved and very shy, which not a lot of people believe or see. But my mum can't believe that I work in property and I value people's houses and I talk to people and I do networking, because at home I'm the quietest soul that doesn't want to do anything at all.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So your personal side is quite, your natural style is quite reserved. Interesting. But yet your adapted style.
It's quite funny. So
outgoing.
we've got Charlotte. So my actual name. So my mum jokes that Charlotte is the quiet, reserved, shy one that doesn't want to go out to family gatherings and doesn't want to go out the house. She's quite happy on her own.
Yeah.
And then we've got customer service Lottie. That's what we call her. And whenever I pick up the phone, everybody's like, oh, she's on the phone again. And I've got, hello, it's Lottie. How can I help? And that's not me at home at all. And it's completely natural. It's not forced. I can walk to somebody's door and be having a really, really bad day. And as soon as they open that door for me to do the valuation, I click into work mode. I can't help it. It's just something that happens.
So is Lottie, and don't take this out of context, but is Lottie the adaptive character?
Yeah.
That you'd literally transform into without any effort? It just happens?
Yeah.
Where's that come from then, in terms of the drive? Is that mum's side? Is that dad's side?
I think it's more a case of I had a lot going on at home when I was younger that people didn't know about with my parents. And therefore, as soon as I stepped out the house, I'd have to put on a brave face and I'd have to be happy and bubbly. And I had someone say to me the other day, you're always happy. And well, no, I'm not. But that's what you see. And I think I've just taken that with me. But it's helped me enormously. That's my brand and who I am. I'm this happy, bubbly person. I can be shoved into any corner and basically go dance monkey and I'll do it. And I love it about me. A lot of people would probably be like, oh, maybe that's not a good thing. But I think it's great because I can take on any challenge, give it a go. If I don't like it, I don't like it. But it's allowed me to try things like doing this podcast, for example. Charlotte would hate this. If you a few years ago asked me to do this podcast, I'd be like, what would I talk about? I've got no idea. I'd be sweating, panicking. But Lottie, today, I'm fine. I'm just chatting. I'm comfortable. It's like I'm in my living room with you, just offering you a brew and have a sit down and have a chat. So it's very bizarre. There are two me's, definitely. I don't think I'm bipolar, but...
No. So it is a thing. We have got our natural style and our adaptive style. And that is really important to remember because a lot of people... Maybe one don't know that, and you'll hear a lot of people say, I know that person, that's not them.
Yeah.
That's not... It probably most definitely is. There is a natural style and an adapted style.
Yeah.
So I think today I'm going to try and... We'll talk about Lottie, but I'm going to try and see where Charlotte's at. Yeah.
She doesn't come out often, but yeah. What I'm proud of is they're not so apart from each other that it's an issue. They're still connected, but I do have people say, oh... you're in customer service mode or you're in your reserve mode. And it's very obvious if you know me really, really well, which one I'm in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, look, a personality test will sort of like explain a lot of this. I don't know if you've ever done one like the Myers-Briggs and whatnot.
I've done is it the DISC?
Yeah, DISC profile.
Yeah. And that came back as a people pleaser.
Yeah.
High I, whatever that means. I'm a high I.
Okay,
yeah.
Wow.
So not dominant at all. But people pleaser will say yes to anything.
Is that the adapted style?
I think so, yeah.
So it'd be interesting to have a look at what the
doing a DISC profile on Charlotte.
Yeah. Because like a lot of it, they'll say like 80% is you'll agree with absolutely, but there'll be the 20% that you just genuinely don't. However, the people that actually really truly know you will say, yeah, that 20% is spot on.
Yes. Yeah. Correct.
It's quite interesting. All right. So obviously we'll touch back into Lottie. You've really had then quite an interesting beginning. What made you start up on your own?
It was never actually a dream of mine. I always saw myself being the area director for the independent estate agents that I worked for. I never really looked past that, but it was all the networking that I do where I've met people that have supported me, seen me grow as a person and an agent as well, that kind of nudged me into saying, you could do this for yourself. I think you do really well with this. Your passion shines through, give it a go. I did eventually cave in and decide, you know what? Yeah, I can do this. I can give it a go. Because like I said, it takes somebody to nudge me in a direction of something that makes me feel a little less confident about myself.
Yeah.
So I did decide to set up Yorkies as by myself. And I thought it was the worst thing I'd ever done because I quit my full-time job, which is the scariest thing I've ever done, at a place I loved and the team that I adored. And then 2 or 3 days later, found out my mum had got terminal cancer.
Oh, really?
And it seemed like the worst decision I've ever made. In that moment, I remember standing in my living room thinking, what the heck have I done? Because I've got to deal with that now. And a business. I'm a letting agent, not a business owner. So that alone is going to be scary and tough. My mum's now terminally ill. I don't know how long she's got left or what care she'll need. And it was frightening, but it's actually turned out to be the best thing that could have ever happened to me because now I work for myself. I can spend time with her. I can help take her to appointments if I need to. And the biggest thing for me, I've mentioned that I didn't necessarily have not an awful childhood, but not a brilliant childhood. I never really got on with my mum when I was younger. And that's changed in recent years. And now I've got something I can say, look what I've done. Here's something I'm proud of. I've set up a business and I've managed to do it whilst you're still here and take her on that journey with me. And it's actually been the biggest thing that we've bonded over because, yeah, we don't have the typical mother-daughter relationship because of things that happened when I was younger. And the business has been something that doesn't need to go into anything that's ever happened. It's something new we can talk about, something exciting that we can get excited about together. And, I didn't actually tell her that I'd quit my job straight away. I kept the business a secret for about 6 months from my parents because I was that scared of doing it. I didn't want them to judge me, so I didn't tell them. And it was only when my let agreed boards arrived. So I designed everything myself, all my branding, all the let agreed, the to let boards, all designed by myself. When I had a physical thing to show them, that's when I told them. And I took it round and went, look what I've done. And I think that's what's got me this far is the passion for it. I'm obsessed with lettings, not sales. I'll make that very clear. And I think that's because I love a challenge, very much similar to having to prove a point to people.
Yeah.
A lot of people who do lettings and sales and they try both typically go into sales. And stay there. Not saying it's any easier, but it's very, very different. Sales, you deal with a client for, well, it depends now. It's longer nowadays, isn't it, for a sale to go through? But let's say 6 months on average for a client that you deal with. And
Used to be 3, now 6.
Yeah. Let's be real. Once they've completed, 9 times out of 10, you go, ta-ra, see you later. We won't speak with you again.
Yeah.
So if you have got an awkward client or somebody you're not keen on dealing with, you don't really have them forever. Or at least when the sale is agreed as an agent, the main bulk of the work is passed on to the solicitors.
Yeah.
Whereas lettings, it is all me. And maybe, I'm quite happy to admit this, I like to be involved in everything.
Yeah.
I like to follow through with promises. So I know as a letting agent for one of my landlords, I can say to them, I can move this tenant in, provided the information they've given me is correct, in 2 weeks. And it's me that's involved throughout every step. So me that's organising compliance, me that's doing the tenancy agreement. I know when I can send it. I know when I can sign it. I know when I can ask for the rent payment. I don't have to worry about a third-party solicitor doing half of that.
Yeah.
I control every step of the way, so therefore I can manage my clients' expectations much better because I know it's me that's doing it.
Yeah.
And I'll talk a little bit about when I moved to Haywards and managed a lettings team there before I set up Yorkies. One of the biggest things I had to learn was delegation.
Right.
That was really hard for me, letting people do the job without me being involved.
So let's hone in on that.
Mm-hmm.
Was that So when you were then at the big corporate,
Yeah.
did you do everything?
So no, so I dealt with first lets, which is the marketing, the referencing, the moving in. I didn't deal with any property management,
Right.
but I did deal with the whole process of moving them in.
Yeah.
And then I can say after the keys are handed over, it's going to go to property management and they'll deal with it. So
Yeah.
I was still able to tell my landlords, right, I can market it on this day. I can do viewings on these days. I can, I'm quite confident I can let it in this time frame 9 times out of 10. And I'll have you a tenant moved in by this date, should everything go well, and be able to follow through with it. It's giving that rein to a team to do that I found really, really challenging, but it was the most rewarding thing of what I've done so far.
Nice to hear that, because I think a big thing from my perspective is it's one of those industries where everybody wants to avoid, but it's a necessity that they have to have.
Yeah.
And if you do it really, really well, it can be extremely successful and rewarding. But done poorly, it can be disastrous.
Yeah.
And I will touch on some of these, some disaster stories that we've all heard of online, and obviously some of the regulation now to try and mitigate that from happening in the future. So you made the transition from big corporate into, you've now got your own business.
So there's in the middle. So I did big corporate, which is where I learned everything. I was thrown in the deep end of a big portfolio to work with. And even though I didn't work in property management there, they were losing houses, but it was my job to top the units back up. So to win the houses, to keep the managed units at the same figure or growing.
Right.
So they put me, as much as the corporate world is not for me to work in, I don't believe in the culture. For me, customer service is everything, absolutely everything. And that's what Yorkies is built on. I couldn't provide the customer service that I needed to give because I was too busy being shouted at for not hitting targets and things. Even though I worked in the best performing branch, we were still invited on red code calls. Even though we'd hit our targets, we still got told off for things.
Wow.
So I didn't like it there. So I thought, right, I need to move to an independent estate agent.
Yeah.
So I'd got all my sort of legal training, everything I needed to know from the corporate, then went to an independent estate agent. And I had some rough times, but the best 4 years of my life there. When I started, there was me and one property manager. And when I left, there was me, a first lets team of 3, I think, and then 2 or 3 in property management. So we grew the portfolio, we grew the business, we grew the team. And that's probably my proudest achievement so far, is going from me and Amy, my property manager, to leaving a fully fledged lettings team, which was not all down to me, but I was responsible for it, being the manager of the whole team. And the team there are brilliant. And
how did that make you feel?
Proud, but I miss them. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good though, because you're already seeing your milestones. Now they're sort of like setting the paved way for the future, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. It's little things like I don't have any self-belief whatsoever. So I don't think I can do things until someone says you can do this. And then when they pester me to say, you need to do this now, then I go and do it. So I never thought I could be a manager. I'd never had any managerial experience. I always worked on the basis of, with my team, I wanted to keep them as happy as possible. Therefore, they would hopefully commit to the vision and the business. And if I give them, they might give good work back. So if they ever needed to go to a doctor's appointment or leave a little bit early to go pick the kids up from school or something like that, I had no issue. And I don't think I ever said no, but it worked on the basis of always ask, never assume. If you assume, don't take the piss with me.
Yeah.
That's how I work. But if you ask, it will always be a yes. If you need 5 more minutes extra on your dinner, absolutely. Because what's the cost to me? Losing 5 minutes or having a team member that doesn't feel like I care for them, or that the business doesn't look after them or give them a little bit back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And something happened the other day. One of my old team members messaged me and she was like, I'm really excited. I've just been promoted to manager and I just wanted to tell you and reach out to you.
Oh, that's nice.
And I'm in touch with every single one of them, go for tea with them all the time. And even though I'm competing with them now, it's not competitive at all because we support each other, and there's enough to go around.
That's we say it all the time. There's a lot of chimneys.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be a dog eat dog world. I think that was traditionally dog
Yeah.
eat dog. It became that very ruthless. But you're right. There are a lot of chimneys, and there's only so many chimneys that actually one good agent can look after until they start to duplicate.
Yeah.
The challenge that we're having in the industry of property is actually having good quality people working within it.
Yeah.
And that is a big challenge. That
Yeah.
everybody wants to jump to the top, and not many people are actually really focused on doing the engine room, if you want.
Yeah.
That's the key bit.
I had a couple of months ago. I had a look around and thought, what agents are really, really good, and what are they doing? How do they conduct themselves? Because I want to be like them. I want to be a good agent. And what I think is right might not be. I might learn something from you. I might learn something from another agent. And if I always say I like to be a sponge. I like to just take
Absorb it all, love it,
all the time. So I'm thinking, right, well, if I can take that good thing from you and that good thing from you, that will make me even better. And I came across a quote that was, people at the bottom compete and people at the top collaborate.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the people that I'm looking up to are helping each other, sharing information. And it's the people that have said to me, I'm a brilliant letting agent, but I know nothing about business. So it's the people that are saying to me, oh, this accountant's brilliant. I use them. Use them. Or have you tried this system? Try that. And it's the people that are willingly helping and providing information because they're good people and they care. And they know that we're not in direct competition because there's enough to go round.
Yeah.
They're the people that have been crucial for me, and they're the people I want to be like. I went networking last night, and there was a landlord there that had recognised me and come over to me. And he says, I'm really sorry, I'm not actually looking for an agent, and I hope that you'll give me some of your time, but can I just ask a few questions? I was like, yeah, of course, not a problem. And he's got a couple of HMOs, and he's getting to the point now where he could probably quit his job and just manage his own portfolio.
Yeah.
Typically, most agents will spark up at that point and think, oh, I can win this landlord and get the management. And yes, that's my job. But didn't spend any time trying to convert him to use my services. I said, right, okay, well, when you get to that point where you're struggling with this or that, let me know. I'll tell you what system you can use for that. I'll let you know how I do this. And he was like, that's brilliant. Thank you. Like, really appreciate it. And I hope that in the future, when he comes to a bit older than me, when he wants to retire, at that point, hopefully I'll win the business. But there's no point trying to force him to hand over management of his properties if that's not something he's looking for.
No, you want relationships to be born on good natured decisions. I mean, you're absolutely right. If it was forced, it's only got one way to go.
Yeah.
Because if it is forced and it's not comfortable, then it can cause in that divide.
Yeah.
But paying it forward, like I said, just giving that a little bit of information, which, let's be real, 9 times out of 10 with the likes of ChatGPT and the AI,
They can find anyway.
They can find anyway.
Yeah.
So being real and being authentic, actually, he'll look at that and go, actually,
Yeah.
she helped me out there.
Yeah.
That's
what I hope anyway. I want people to walk away and go, like, I'm actually really grateful versus, oh, she's sold her services to me. That's not what I want. I want people just to find value from me, whether they use me or not. And I've recognised now, as my business is growing, that is paying me back.
Yeah.
But that's not what I did it for, which you should, because most business people should be like, right, we need to grow the business. We need to get as many clients, get as many landlords. Yes, there's an element of that to me, but I love this job that much that that's not number one for me. Number one is giving good customer service, whether that's to a client or not.
Well, people at the end of the day, and what we need to realise is tenants is a word to define people living in a house that's not theirs. But the reality is the people. So if you look after those people, those people will look after you, and then they'll look after the property, things like that. So if we're people first, actually the byproduct is actually the making the money and things like that.
Just treat people like people.
Yeah, exactly that.
And you'll go so much further. I've realised that as well. I'm still learning every single day how to deal with people, how to set boundaries as well. And I do think treating people like people and forgetting the labels like tenants, landlord, agent, forget them. I'm Lottie. I help you with this. Say the tenant's called Sam. Sam, your responsibility is to pay the rent. Say the landlord's called Suzanne.
Yeah.
Her responsibility is to provide a good house and liaise with me. It's a better relationship when you take off agent, landlord, tenant, and treat people like people.
It is. We're going to touch into that. But before we do, I'm going to pull it right back to something you said, and you might not know who said it. So I think you mentioned Lottie hasn't got a drive for like the business kind of thing, or you'd be reserved until push for it.
Yeah.
Is that a bit of Charlotte in there?
I'd probably say so. This is what I mean. They do merge a little bit. They're not so far apart that they're two separate people.
Yeah.
I think that what's the film where he says yes to everything? It's Jim Carrey, I think.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Is it Liar Liar?
No, I don't think it is. That's going to bug me now. There's a film anyway with Jim Carrey in it, and he works in a bank.
Liar, because I could be wrong on Liar, but it's because he has to say yes to everything because he constantly just
Oh, it might be. I'm not sure of the name, but
but I do
he says yes to everything. That's a little bit of the philosophy that I've had since I've started networking and thinking about growing a business and things like that. Is I realised that when I was being reserved and a bit more Charlotte-y and saying no to things, I wasn't really getting very far. I was still just a letting agent in Stoke-on-Trent, and that's all I will have ever stayed. But as soon as I embraced saying yes to more things, even if they made me uncomfortable, like speaking at events or doing podcasts and things like that, it has opened my world up tremendously. And if I hadn't have said yes to someone saying, do you want to start up a lettings business? If Charlotte would have answered that question, I would not have a lettings business. Yeah.
You'd still be at home today.
Yeah.
I love that. Right, so we're breaking away a little bit from, obviously, you've now done the corporate, you've had the intermediate business. Now, we're not going to go into sort of like goal settings and things like that, because a lot of people talk about, what I'm going to do and what that. What's your biggest sort of like driver behind the customer service? Because you've mentioned we are people first, right? But you've mentioned that is a big, big thing that you care about.
Yeah.
Why is it that you care about that so much?
I think I've been through certain circumstances in life where I've not been treated very well, whether that's in childhood, whether that's... I'm very sensitive. I'm a sensitive soul. If I go buy a new car, if the salesman kind of looks down his nose at me, I feel really uncomfortable. I don't like it. So I've kind of set out on a mission to make people feel comfortable. And I think a lot of people forget that buying a house or renting a house, even as a landlord or a tenant, it's a huge life milestone. And I would much rather people have somebody they're comfortable with dealing with it than a car salesman that's looking down their nose. I just want people to be comfortable and happy. And that's my way of giving back to the world. I've never really thought about it in much detail, but I think that's just my natural personality is to, if you come around my house, do you want a brew? Do you want anything to eat? Can I go to the shop and get you your favourite drink? That's just who I am. And I think that really comes through in business as well, is I just want people to be happy, comfortable, that maybe at certain points in my life I wasn't.
It is. I mean, for those that know me, I've got a couple of phrases which I'll constantly repeat, but one of them being take emotion out of it because people shit.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, because we are people first, it doesn't matter what we do, we are going to make mistakes. But if you are genuine and you actually care, even if the mistake's been done, it's what you do after that counts.
Yeah.
We talk about the line of life, having no blame excuse denial at the bottom, and you should avoid that like the plague. And in lettings, I know this, being a landlord, when a tenant leaves or you've got a disgruntled tenant, the quick thing to do is blame. And you've got to sort of like have that self-discipline to stop, look at that and think, okay, let's investigate why. So as a letting agent, do you think part of your role is, because you care that much, you actually do need to understand why so you can prevent it going forward?
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard to admit when you've done something wrong or when you've forgotten something, or there's so many different pieces of legislation with lettings, so many compliance documents. There's so much to know, and it's always changing as well. So it's so easy to make mistakes. And I think, again, that's another reason why people don't naturally go into lettings or don't stay in lettings for a very long time, is that it's so easy to get in trouble or to do something wrong and people just don't like it. It's very risky as a person to be in lettings, I think.
So, difficult question, but why you? Why you as a letting agent versus, say, Joe Blogs?
It's a great question, and I have many answers. I've got care and attention to detail. That's probably the two things that I could answer that question with.
Yeah.
Is I care about your house, your tenants, probably as much as you do. Don't ask me why. I just do. I've got high attention to detail because I'm passionate and I want to do things right. And I don't like doing things wrong because, like I say, I'm sensitive. I don't like getting shouted at. So it's almost, I had a manager say to me once, he said that your sensitiveness is what makes you great, because you're so scared of doing something wrong or so scared of saying the wrong thing that it makes you evaluate things a lot more than the average person, and it makes you double check, triple check. And therefore, you don't make as many mistakes because you're so scared of making mistakes. And I always remember him saying that to me. He was like, yeah, that's your biggest weakness, but it's your biggest strength at the same time. Because I'd always go up to his office and cry because I was like, so-and-so spoke to me like this. And he's like, you're so soft. But at the same time, it makes you obsessed with what you're doing because you don't want to do it wrong.
That's a good quality.
Mm-hmm.
We say it, great. That'll do, will never do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're content on saying, I don't know, it could be swinging a door, could be laying bricks, whatever. And if it's a little bit out and you go, oh, that'll do.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first foundational pillar to the rest of the cock-ups.
Yeah.
So really just, and for what it takes to actually do that rectification is only such a small amount of time that you may as well do it at that point and rectify it quickly. Because if you don't...
Ripple effect.
The ripple effect. And it's colossal as it goes. So, yeah, it is a really interesting quality.
Yeah.
But I will say, although I know, look, we've only just met, but that is a very rare quality to have.
Do you think?
Absolutely.
I'll take that.
In a world today that is extremely fast-paced, it's quite unique to listen to someone who spends that much care and attention.
Yeah.
When really competition is high, you've got to be fast-paced.
Yeah.
It's too easy to cut a corner. And, when you're in business, you realise the corners that you cut are going to be, they're going to be heavy, penalised, especially being a letting agent. Because let's talk about the regulation side of it.
Yes.
The regulation today in property is forever changing.
Yeah.
And let's myth bust. Whose job, whose role and responsibility is it to maintain that regulation change on a property?
It's such a grey area, I've always been taught anything falls down to the landlord, but that's not how I work. So although I've been taught that, that's not how I work. I see it as my landlords come to me and they pay for a service, and therefore it's my responsibility to ensure that whether they're a seasoned landlord and they've got a couple of hundred in their portfolio, or whether they've inherited a house and they're an accidental landlord and they've got no idea what they're doing, it's my job, I'm the professional, to make sure that I do everything correctly, compliantly as well. If the landlord is not on side with that, which does happen a lot, because I'm so picky with certificates and things like that, that's, that's a scan, I can't read that, you need to send me the original. Tiny little things like that, the corner of your passport's cut off, I'm not going to have that. Some of my landlords must hate me for it, but I know they're not going to jail. Yeah,
that's peace of mind. That's important, because you touched on it's a responsibility that you've picked up. That's a really interesting point, because as the law will state, the responsibility is, as you say, the landlords. However, a lot of these landlords will talk about passive income and things like that, and we know in the industry it doesn't actually exist, because you've still got to do a level of something.
What is passive income?
It's such a... You should just delete it and erase it from property. But in terms of the responsibility, legally it does stand on the landlord. However, you can delegate that responsibility, because your role is obviously to manage the property, manage the whole process. But you are saying you inherit the responsibility. That's you as an individual. So I suppose that is a big USP, what you've got in your business. Because not every agent I know, we know, because one agent actually said to me, which drove us to the point of, wow, we need to take these reins, seriously.
There's a lot of rogue agents.
Yeah, a lot. The wording was, oh, you need to sort that because it's your responsibility. Whilst that was a true statement, it was a bit of a shock to the system. Like, well, I thought that's what we paid you to do.
Yeah, not helpful.
It was zero helpful. And once we'd been met with that, and you were still paying out your backside for it, things were still costing. The agent is happy. What we found, and I want you to answer this. I don't know if you've got enough experience or sort of like portfolio to maybe give it too accurate on it, but given our experience in our portfolio and whatnot we've looked after, we saw this and we spoke to this agent, and we very quickly analysed that lettings agent was actually a maintenance company.
Right, okay.
And what I mean by that is they were doing a hell of a lot more maintenance on these properties than they were actually managing the properties themselves.
Yeah.
And what we found as the byproduct of that is their main source of income was coming from maintenance, not actually the management, be it 8, 10, 12% or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that is the byproduct of the income from maintenance was that huge.
Yeah.
You looked at their P&L and you're like, wow.
It's a big chunk of money. Yeah. I've known it where I've worked before, where it's been 30% of the income, or it depends on how your lettings business is structured. How I structure mine is I've got tenancy setup fees, so that's the actual setup fees, the inventory fees, etc. You've got your management costs, you've got your ancillaries whilst they're in the property, such as your rent increases, extensions, etc. Then you've got your maintenance as well. But maintenance depends on your portfolio, and I think as well as how not good of an agent you are, but how much advice you can give a landlord pre-tenancy as well. Is I find that a lot of the maintenance issues can be sorted before the tenant moves in. So if you take that little bit extra care and attention and advise the landlord, look, it's better to do this now whilst it's empty, even if that's just, say the boiler's kind of on its way out, but the landlord wants to get another year out of it. I say, look, don't bother, because I guarantee you that boiler will go 3 days before Christmas. Or
it's typical that.
Yeah. Or when it's cold and you've got young children in the house, do it now, and it will save you so much mither and hassle, because your tenants will stay longer. When you want to do a rent increase, your tenants will go, well, they did give us a new boiler and they have looked after us, so we can't really contest this rent increase. We'll just pay it. And it works both ways. So I try to, almost like people have pushed me to go and do a lettings business, I try and push my landlords to be the best landlords they can be as well.
That's nice.
By doing those little things. Yeah.
So what is your biggest bugbear of being an agent?
Other bad agents.
I can't for the life of me understand how it, even in 2025, there's still a thing today, bad agents, but it's true.
It's incredible what some agents aren't doing or are doing. So
we'll be cheeky and going for an example.
Absolutely. I've got 2. I went to a networking event a few months ago, and a couple of weeks before, I'd had a landlord come to me with a couple of properties where the previous letting agent hadn't sent over the last month's rent. This is all from the landlord as well. I haven't got the letting agent's account of this. But the letting agent had also said that they'd let this student property for the next year as well. So the landlord thought, okay, no problem. It sounds like the students haven't paid their last month. Not an issue, because we've got it let for next year. We'll let that slide. After that landlord had done a bit of digging, and I've seen the emails, and she actually got the tenant's contact details, and the tenant said, I have paid, here's the proof. So you could see that they'd paid the agent. So the landlord was like, right, okay. Asked the agent for that month's rent. That agent had then gone missing and wasn't answering any phone calls or emails. And it wasn't a high street agent, but they were a local agent. And then she said, right, okay, well, it's obvious you don't want to pay me that month's rent. And she was in a fortunate position not to worry too much about it, because she thought, I've got students for next year anyway. And then it turns out that the students for next year didn't exist. And so she was left owed rent and with an empty property. And with student properties, you need to let them pretty much the year before.
Yeah.
So she's, 2 months away from supposedly having students moving in and they don't exist. So now she's got an empty property.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
and then
actually happened.
But went to this networking event and I had a landlord come over to me and he says, I'm from Bath. I said, what are you doing up here? Because we were in Birmingham. He says, I've come to the HMO conference that we were at. I said, what properties do you have? Is it students, professionals? He said, I've got a mix of both. He says, but all my properties are in Stoke. And I said, I just assumed they were in Bath because you said you were from Bath. And he said, no, they're in Stoke. I said, I'm a letting agent in Stoke. And he went, yeah, I'm having a terrible time. I said, why? What's wrong? He says, this agent not paying me the rent, but the tenants are paying it. I'm owed about 14 grand and I'm not the only landlord. And I said, who is it? Same agent as the other one.
So the agent stole £14,000
of rent, supposedly. Yeah.
I can't believe.
But it was bizarre that within a 2-week period, I'd got one landlord come to me directly to say, can you help me? I need to fill my property because this has happened.
Yeah.
And then I drove to Birmingham to a HMO conference and a landlord who just happened to be there, didn't know who I was, didn't know I was a letting agent, just said, so-and-so agency has taken all this rent from me and it's the same letting agent.
I'm not going to ask you to name and shame the agent, but
I wouldn't.
Wow, that's unreal.
Yeah.
All right. You and I can't control that, but clearly it happens.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. But how do we as landlords prevent that from happening?
I always say that if you were to let your own property, you'd check the tenant out, wouldn't you? You'd do your references on your tenant. How often has anybody actually checked their letting agent? Do you check that they're compliant? Do you check that they've got a client account? Do you ask them to see their ICO certificate? Are they part of a redress scheme? You can Google, what does an agent need to be compliant? And it will give you a list. I urge any landlord going to any agent and ask to see proof of all of that. I've had it. That landlord that had the empty student property, she asked me for a copy of which redress scheme I was with, my ICO certificate, proof that I registered my deposits with a government-approved scheme. It took me 10 minutes to get all the documents together and go, here you are, you can trust me, I'm compliant. Any good agent will quite happily hand them over. The independent estate agent that I worked at before, same thing, brilliant, did everything by the book. All of their certificates were on show, in date, on show as soon as you walked into the branch. I can never say it, do your due diligence on your agents. Nobody ever does.
Nobody does due diligence on the letting agent.
Yeah, that was the first landlord, and only because she'd been scarred by another agent, that ever asked me to prove that I was compliant or knew that I know what I'm doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bit mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still shocked by the 14,000.
I know.
But so, yeah, that's a good prevention method there up front. Mm-hmm. Do you operate like a system that, provides a bit more transparency? Is there ways to do that? Because obviously money is through banking, isn't it? But can it not be traced?
Yeah. So I've got a payment system called PayProp that I use where my landlords can log in, see when the rent comes in. That's my client account, and that's the only place where people pay money into for me. So you can see say you're a landlord of mine and you've sent me £100 for a certificate. You can see when you've paid it. You can see when I've paid the contractor. You can see the contractor's invoice. You can see the tenant's rent come in. It alerts you. It alerts me, so I know to pay it over to you and just double check it. You get monthly statements. That's the best way is actually ask what your agent does before you use them. And I'm more than happy to give anyone any advice. And I say to people as well, when I compete against other agents, is if you have any queries about their services, you can still come to me and I can tell you what to ask and things like, because I'm not going to win everybody. It's a people business. Some people might not like me. I might be too friendly for somebody. I might be too keen and passionate. It has happened.
Really?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Absolutely. I had...
Wait, someone has not done business with you because you're too keen, too passionate.
He didn't not do business with me, but he was very reluctant. So he was a current landlord of the independent estate agents that I work for. And he was very sort of upper class. I'll call him Mr. Martin. Never called him by his first name at all. He was always Mr. Martin. And he figured out that my name was Charlotte, not Lottie. So would only ever call me Charlotte. Refused to call me Lottie. He was like, I'm calling you by your given name. Like, right, okay, that's fine.
Did you correct him and say, no, Lottie's fine?
Too easy going on time. I was like, oh, you can call me whatever you want, that's fine. And he was very much, didn't like me because I was so enthusiastic. And he was like, you're too young, you're female, you're enthusiastic, you don't know what you're doing. Not necessarily in those words, but he was an older gentleman. And now I'm stereotyping. Drove a really old Jag. His wife was always done up to the nines. Like, lovely couple, I'm sure. But they really, really judged me because I was so sort of bubbly, happy, eager to please. Almost like he was trying to find what was wrong with me.
How many generations roughly between you two?
I must have been at the time 24. He must have been mid-70s.
Yeah, so that's fair to say. He's been through that era. And I think that's understandable. I'm not saying it's right, but it's understandable that, he's come from an era of, well, actually, there was a lot of male dominance in that sort of time frame. So,
which I'm very much used to from being in engineering.
I'm going to say this is
it wasn't an issue at all, but it was more the way that he was the only person that's ever made me feel small. No one else on this planet.
Bad that.
Don't know why. Something about him used to really stress me out. Now, the manager that I said that my sensitivity is a weakness and a good thing, that's the only time where he didn't console me. He said, Lottie, put your big girl pants on and speak to him. Because he was due to come in for a meeting and I was panicking thinking, I don't know what he's coming in for. He's going to shout at me. He's going to make me feel really small. I was crying. I was like, I'm so scared for Mr. Martin to come in the office. And my manager, Steph, said, put your big girl pants on. It's your job. Do it. So I went in the office. Me and Mr. Martin shook hands and walked out of that office laughing with each other. I don't know what happened, but he'd almost sort of met me on my level. I'd met him on his level. And we ended up having a brilliant relationship after that. He had no idea how he made me feel.
Even to this day?
Even to this day, never. But something about Steph saying, just put your big girl pants on and deal with it. And I went in and thought, I think because I'd gone in and thought, you know what, yeah, I'm going to deal with this. Maybe put Mr. Martin back in his place a little bit. Maybe thought, actually, she's been a bit more, no, do it this way, no, do it that way. I respect that, maybe. I'm not sure, maybe that's what he needed. But...
well, firstly, shame on him.
Bizarre. He was just an old posh guy that just obviously didn't like young females dealing with his money and his property. He was very protective.
Well, is it fair to say then that, we have to look at this industry that there's a lot of trust being given?
Yeah.
But shouldn't trust be earned?
I think so.
I'm going to ask you a weird question.
Okay.
You meet someone for the first time, do you trust them or do you have your wits about you?
Wits about me always, but you wouldn't know it.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy, but it was fantastic. And he said to me, everybody and anybody you meet for the first time, trust them like your life depended on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because the world's a better place. So if you trust everybody explicitly, the first you meet them, they've got to prove you wrong.
True.
So therefore, obviously, I'm not saying give people your bank details.
Yeah, of course.
But the reality is,
give them a chance.
Lead with positivity.
Yeah.
If we're standoffish, you're already creating a negative atmosphere.
Yeah.
Just by being a bit more protective, being a bit more reserved. But you said something quite interestingly earlier that you focus on paying it forward. Well, that is that trust.
Yeah.
So if we as a nation, especially in property, because it can be a very toxic sort of sector.
Yeah.
But if we led with more positive actions and trusting from the first instinct,
Yeah.
then actually you're right. I think in terms of agencies, there wouldn't be theft.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's still blowing my mind. But yeah, trust everybody you meet.
I've learned something. I'll try it. Yeah, because normally, like I say, you'll think I trust you, but I'll be doing my background work. So I'll be thinking, right, what do your reviews say? Does somebody I know you and can vouch for you and things? That's what I look for when I'm looking to partner with people or use services like an inventory company that I use. I use them because I know someone else has used them and recommended them, and I know that I've spoken to a tenant of mine they've come and inspected their house, and that tenant said they were brilliant. They really helped me. They made me feel like I could report maintenance that needed reporting, and I probably didn't fully trust them until I'd got their say-so and their say-so. And I say to people when I'm on valuations, I can sit here and sell you the dream and say, I can let your house, I can make it compliant, and I can be the best agent. But go and look at my reviews. And yes, they can be fake as well. When I worked at the corporate, I got paid £25 per 5-star review that had my name in it. So my mum did one. My sister did one.
What?
Oh, yeah. I had a fake Google account. I'm not the only one that did it. And I'm more than happy to say that's what I did.
You were told to provide fake reviews?
Yeah.
Wow. This is still...
That branch now has over 1,000 reviews, and I would probably say that...
Less than half?
I'll be generous. I'd say probably 70 are real, but there's at least 30 that are completely fake.
There you go. So many people having to buy good reviews. That's...
I made more commission on reviews than I did on my lets.
Really?
Yeah. That's how highly incentivized it is.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to think of that. I mean, I don't know why you'd need to do that today, just be honest. But this again comes back down to the trust. So, are you trustworthy?
Yes, because I own up when I do something wrong.
Yeah, for me, it's that accountability.
Mm-hmm.
If you're prepared to take ownership, take full responsibility and be held accountable, then absolutely. So I spoke on a stage recently about in construction, not everywhere today has, because it's a paid role that is necessity, but it's an expense. So people have done away with it, and it's a clerk of works. Mm-hmm. And this individual would be paid to snag the job as it goes. Yeah. So they're constantly checking measurements, they're constantly checking quality of works, things like that, ensuring that it's done correctly to prevent issues at the back end. Mm-hmm. Well, today in sort of like smaller workforces, it's a big expense, so it's done away with. Yeah. And they try and push the responsibilities onto other teams, but everybody needs to be that lean today. That it's a lost trade, and we've turned into, and I'm sure you'll have seen them, social media snaggers. Yeah. So these people will get paid to actually snag something that someone else has done, and we sit there scrolling. And you like them because it's like, wow, how bad are we building? Yeah. And you look at that and you think, okay, so you were trusted to do a job. Mm-hmm. You were paid for that job. You probably hid some errors. Yeah. You'd have probably screamed from the rooftop if you didn't get paid, right? But yet now looking at the snags going, well, that's not taking ownership. Yeah. And that phrase, that'll do, that's where it applies. So for me, I'll sit there and think, well, those people aren't trustworthy. Yeah. When did we as people, especially in Great Britain, when did we, fake it that much where we don't care? Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you're going to do something and you're going to get paid to do it, well, do it to the best of your ability. Yeah. And make sure that it's aligned with both values. Yeah, definitely. That's when you can be trustworthy. Yeah, for sure. A lot of people will throw that trust, word around. Oh, you could trust me. Mm-hmm. Okay, can I? Yeah. I'm going to trust you because you've told me I can trust you. Mm-hmm. But when you don't and you don't perform, I'm going to pull you up on it. Yeah. The proof is in the pudding. The proof's in the pudding. Yeah. I think that's what it is for me. So when it comes to agencies, a lot of agencies today are under a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. Regulation changing. It's hard. It's really difficult. tenants have now got, again, thanks to Labour, they've got a lot more sort of control and protection.
Even more is coming.
It's getting extremely difficult.
Yeah.
I'll say this again: the inequality balance is destroyed. You know, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting ridiculously poor. And I think that the volume is going to be poor. There'll be a top upper class that are rich. The complete in the middle, centralised middle class, if you want, is going to be eroded.
It's just disappearing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's by design. You know, you've only got to look at the likes of India and Brazil. Those countries are doing it, and the rich are extremely rich. Yeah. But the poor are terribly poor.
It's just sad.
But that, again, you look at the sort of like the level of quality of living. Whilst Labour are trying to protect the people, is there that much compliance on ensuring that the quality of the stock is that high?
Not currently. This is all really what the Renters' Rights Bill is going to be bringing in, which I find a tough topic to talk about because you don't actually know what's going to happen yet. It's all drafted, but nothing's been passed yet. And this is what I struggle with landlords that come to me and say, should I get out or should I not buy another one because of this? And, I can't say no to pets anymore. And I'm like, well, if you're a leasehold property and your lease says you can't have pets, you don't have to have pets. And, there's always a way around certain things like that. For example, if you want to be a landlord that doesn't accept pets, then go and buy properties that you can't have pets in. But my biggest advice to people and landlords is embrace it. You can't do anything about it. That's going to be the law. It's exactly the same with the tenancy fee ban in 2019. Agents' biggest income was wiped out. We used to charge, this was when I worked at the corporate, £168 per tenant that wanted to be referenced. So if you've got a family of 4, that's, I'm not great with maths in my head, that's at least 600 quid there, paid. They may not even pass, but that's banked. From the minute you say, the landlord has accepted you, let's reference you, then you could charge pet deposits as well and things like that. They wiped it all out. What could we do about it? Almost every agent was expecting to go bust. But the good agents that did survive embraced it, charged for different things, upped the management fees. Unfortunately, the cost fell on the landlords. It was a tenant charge, but unfortunately the landlords are paying for it now. But they're still letting agents. They're still making money. And it's the ones who embraced it that have got through it. So I think with the Renters' Rights Bill, as an agent, we just need to embrace it because what can we do? Learn about it and be smart with it. And as landlords, if it's like they say, any time is the right time to buy a house. Don't sit and wait for the market to drop because you'll never end up buying anything. Well, that's what I've heard anyway. Just go for it. If you want to be a good landlord, take the advice around you from good people and just embrace it. Do things the right way. Be compliant. You should be okay.
Yeah, there are a lot of rogue landlords out there, and it's 9 times out of 10 financially driven. Yeah. When finances get squeezed and say, oh, well, the reality is what they're telling you without telling you is I can't afford to do this.
Yeah.
So what would your advice to be at that point then? Would it still be just embrace it and get on with it, even if they're losing money? Or how could they, is there a technique today where they can save money, without cutting corners and still make it profitable?
At the end of the day, a tenancy, I view it as a business. So it needs to work. It needs to make money. A lot of the landlords that end up in that situation are the landlords that have had tenants in for 30 odd years. And they, out of respect for their tenants, rightfully, don't ever want to increase the rent. And I saw this about 2 years ago where, or however many years ago, when the mortgage rates all jumped up, so many landlords came to me panicking, going, oh my gosh, the rent doesn't cover the mortgage anymore. And I'm thinking, well, if you'd have taken my advice about increasing the rent, even just by 20 quid last year and 20 quid the year before, it would be not as bad. But you need to treat it, whether you're an accidental landlord or a portfolio landlord or any type of landlord, treat your property and the tenancy like a business. It needs to work. It needs to be safe. It needs to be compliant. The money you put in needs to come back out. Otherwise, you won't have business anymore. You won't have property and a tenancy anymore because you'll end up selling. So I think it's a tricky one because if you're already run out of money, it's hard to get that back up to a place where you are making money from it.
Yeah.
Unless there's so many factors that go in. Is the property in good condition? Is the tenant paying market rent? Because if the tenant's not paying market rent, well, we can work to get that up, so that can help you.
Yeah.
Obviously, if the property's in good condition, you don't need to spend much on maintenance. But if your tenant's not paying market rent, the house is in poor condition, I will tell a landlord, look, cut your losses and sell this one. Let someone else who's got the capital and to do it up and get a new tenant or help the tenant, go and find one that does work. Go and buy another business that does work and just nurture it better next time. Learn from it.
It's nice that you can actually, push that advice on and make a decision, because sitting on the fence, and I'm talking to a lot of landlords at the minute who are just sitting on the fence, they're hearing the generalised, quit the UK and go to Dubai. That to me is not always the right answer.
We can't all do it.
I mean, can you imagine if everyone just upped it and left? For one, it's not for everybody anyway.
Yeah.
But two, there's got to be, a level of understanding on your own portfolio financially. If your loan to values are quite tight and you've stretched yourself and you're not resilient enough to take a hit when interest rates rise, or if mini crashes, we've got recessions, things like that.
Yeah.
Then actually you've done that to yourself. You've got to be a bit smart. You can't always stretch yourself financially. I know today we're 75% loan to value on your buy-to-let products and things like that, but bring it down a little bit more, maybe 60-40 kind of thing.
Yeah.
So really you have to be a little bit more smarter today in how you're buying.
Yeah.
The market is a bit more challenging, and as landlords, we're having to pivot. But this is, I suppose, back in your court, this is a really good USP for yourself then. So have you got offices and things like that, or are you still quite flexible where you can move around?
Still flexible, don't have an office, don't see the need anymore.
Well, this is my point. Today, an agent, should they be sat in an office where they can't actually be flexible? And because isn't the part of an agent being a bit more active and you're out there doing the do?
Oh, I'm here, there and everywhere. My car has so many miles on it. I think I put about 50k miles on it in the last year. It's incredible. I'm driving up and down the motorway to properties, and part of that is because it's just me at the moment, and when I get staff and get to a point where I'm big enough to employ, obviously that responsibility and those jobs will be shared. I like to think I'm as systemised as possible at the moment. I don't do something unless I have to. But part of being a good agent is knowing your properties, being on the ground and being able to be flexible and out and about, because, I have investors that are looking to purchase properties, and they'll ring me and say, are you free at 2:00 today? I want to bring you along to a viewing. And now the value in that for me is if I go there, I can tell them whether or not it's a good property to buy, to let out. I can give them the advice. I can give them an idea of what works they'll need to do to get it lettable, because they may not know. And then that hopefully in return will be another one that will drop into my portfolio for fully managed. And then that investor trusts me because I've done a good job on that one. So they'll do another one with me and they'll tell another investor friend about it. And it's a proper ripple effect.
Yeah.
But if I was lazy and didn't go to that viewing, think of what I could have lost out. And don't get me wrong, some of them are a waste of time.
Yeah,
I waste a lot of my time, but you don't know. I don't waste my time on things I know I'm going to waste time on.
No.
I've got CRMs, good referencing, my actual systems and the backbone of the business are all set up, I like to say, really well. They work for me. I've done it that way for years. And I'm always open to changing as well. Something might be great for 2 or 3 years and a new piece of software will come along. So I'm always...
Yeah, I mean, that's good. It's going to evolve,
always looking to evolve.
The older sort of old-haired, grey-haired kind of agents, the legacy ones, the big corporate ones, I know their challenges are pretty much exactly what we're saying, that they've got fixed locations, big overheads, and obviously increase then the charges, things like that. With the Renters' Right Bill and things like that, there's a lot of push financially because of the big squeeze. So I'm thinking today we're going to see a pivot in agencies, especially just letting agencies who are independently ran just as letting agencies.
Yeah.
They're going to be need to be more flexible.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I suppose you're already ahead of the game there.
Yeah.
And that you're not actually tied down with big overhead costs.
And
some
of the corporates are already doing it. So the corporate that I worked for, they have like a hub model now. So they did start off as an independent estate agents in Stoke-on-Trent and surrounding areas. I think they had, I might be wrong, let's say 25 branches, for example. One in Stoke, one in Crewe, one in Stafford, one in Telford. So every little town had its own branch. They got bought out by a corporate agent and everything changed. And what they did was they created hubs. So they kept the biggest branches. So they kept Hanley, they kept Crewe, but they got rid of Telford. Still got Stafford, but I think they should have got rid of Stafford. And essentially had partner agents. So the people who would have worked in the branch now report back to the big branch, but then they work from home.
Yeah.
And so they're already adopting that kind of model. They've still got their high street presence in most places, but they've cut costs by shutting the smaller stores, but still having the people in the area.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like remote agents as such.
Like a hybrid way, isn't it?
Yeah.
So where do we see the industry going then, Lottie? What's your big prediction?
Oh, that's a great question.
It's tough, isn't it? Because with all the corporate challenges at the top, and obviously we spoke about the Renters' Right Bill, with all the compliance changes, you kind of can't, you can kind of put some, this is kind of what I think it's going to look like, and then you can kind of get your provisions based off that. But we saw Lloyds Bank openly say, we're going to be the UK's largest landlord with 50,000 units under our management, under our ownership, within the next 10 years. You know, in Create, we've got an ambition, it's 1,005. And you look at that and you think, okay, so 1,000, so it's a tiny, tiny portion compared to what theirs is in half the time. And that is a big stretch for us. So them to do that at that scale, are they going to be the largest landlord? You know, what does that mean in terms of like us independents? You know, it's quite a challenging era, I suppose, isn't it?
It is, but then us at the bottom are resilient and we keep going and we can pivot easier and adapt. Whereas when you've got the bigger boys as such, in order to scale that much, you've got to almost be set in a certain way of doing it. There's always like a recipe to doing that. And so when something changes, like the Renters' Rights Bill, it's much harder for them to be flexible and adapt and change. So if anything, that might, what's the word I'm looking for? It might be a negative for them, but a positive for the smaller boys, because it's much easier to change at a lower level.
Move,
Yeah. That's probably all I've got to say on that, to be honest.
It is. Well, that's pretty much
it's a tricky one to answer. Yeah.
I think we've just got to roll with the times, like you say, adopt it, embrace it. And like I say, as long as you can be flexible to move and obviously keep on top of compliance, that's been the biggest one.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you very much for coming through today. If landlords and listeners can, or look for you, where can we find you?
Best place is on Instagram at Property Lottie. Or if you just type in Yorkeys Lettings into Google, you'll find me.
And do we see you at networking events? Where should we go if we're going to see you?
Yes, I'm here, there and everywhere. Mainly Most Property and Poppadoms in Staffordshire and Cheshire. I'm a host there, so you'll see me there quite often. For the ladies in the room, Hard Hats to Heels. That's a good one to go to as well. And I'm currently in the process of becoming a host for another one that will be announced soon as well. So I can't say too much just yet, but yeah.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll look forward to more coming soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.
Cheers.